Hi everyone, it's Brian from the Goodwood Studio. This is a video that many of you have asked about and been waiting for. This is a review of the Laguna CFlux 3 horsepower dust collector. I've had this for almost 90 days now, and it's been very impressive so far. We'll go over aspects such as the assembly, overall connections and hookup, and a couple of things, pros and cons along the way, things that I found. And we'll even do a couple of tests with an air meter to see if the suction is really as good as they proclaim it is. So stick around and we'll go through more. Okay, so for the first part, let's talk about the assembly of the dust collector. The assembly process took about 5.5 hours for myself and my friend Mr. Engelhard to perform. The process in which this is done definitely requires a second set of hands. There are certain parts such as the cyclone body and the waste basket assembly that definitely require a second set of hands to do the assembly. So make sure that you've got a friend that can help install. Another aspect of the assembly was the instructions that came with the dust collector. While they were very verbose and fairly concise, I found that assembling the dust collector, if you go by the instructions, they go through a different order sequence of what really makes sense. So, for example, they kind of start with part C and then go to part A and then go to a B. And I found that a little bit frustrating. And I'd found some videos on YouTube from Laguna directly that covered the assembly aspect much better. From unboxing it to the assembly was a lot more fluid, and I will provide those links below, but I found that those were a much better process. I wish I'd had a GoPro video together for the actual assembly itself that would be covered as probably as well as Laguna's, but unfortunately I didn't have any video equipment before the finalization of the dust collector. Okay, so let's talk about the overall noise of the dust collector. A lot of people said, oh, it sounds like a jet engine, or it's louder than any other equipment in my shop. I don't find this one to be as loud as, say, a jointer or a planer. In many cases, the DeWalt planer, for example, is a very noisy machine running at about 85 decibels. I believe the jointer here, this Delta DJ20, is running at about 75, maybe up to 80 decibels. I don't have a sound meter, so I'm not quite positive on those numbers. But what I'll do is I'll actually turn on the dust collector here with the key fob. The dust collector is roughly about 30 feet behind the camera here in an enclosed room. The drywall isn't all the way up yet. It's almost there, but it's for the most part fairly enclosed. It's not baffled in any way with any like egg crates or any sound absorbing material. And then as well, there is a dust port probably about 2 feet behind the camera. So you'll hear probably some airflow right behind as well. So I'm going to turn it on here. I don't know if I'm really talking above the sound of the dust collector or the microphone, or if you can even hear what I'm saying. I would say roughly that it's about 70 to 75 decibels. It's not too bad. I'm definitely not yelling into anything. I'll turn it off here. And I think that from the aspect of how the suction power is, and in regards to what I've seen it do over the last 90 days, I don't think it's too loud, and I think that it's actually very manageable. You don't need earplugs or any protection or anything of that nature. Okay, so let's talk about the overall suction, or CFM, per port. I think there's a lot of confusion out there in regards to what the expected CFM is versus what like a manual would state. The manual states that there is 1700 CFM total for the dust collector. Would you expect that at the port itself? Probably not. And the reason I say that is because that CFM is rated from the source. And when you consider the diameter of tubing used, the distance from the source to the destination port, when you're talking about reductions such as blast gates or going from, for example, 6-inch to 4-inch. In this case, I have 6-inch to everything except for my planer. I have a 4-inch there, and what you want is you're gonna lose a lot of that suction along the way because of the distance traveled, etc. So my expectation at a port level, even with about from here to the source, is roughly about 30 feet away, and I would still expect at about 600 CFM at the port level. And by doing that, I'm going to maximize what I can get from the way of wood chips or debris, any planer or table saw, anything that's going to take a lot of chips. I want to make sure that I have the most suction power possible. The number that I am arbitrarily shooting for is about 600 CFM at a port. So if I turn it on here, I've got a air meter. I keep it about 6 inches away because I don't want to put it up there. So right now, I don't know if you can see this, I've got roughly about 700 CFM at a port. I don't want to put it any closer because then it's going to be in the thousands. You know, that's not an arbitrary thing. You want to have it right at enough distance away. But as you can see, it's keeping at a minimum of 650, and it goes on up to about 700. That to me is very acceptable. Alright, so one of the biggest features of the Laguna CFlux dust collector is how it collects dust and how easy it is to dump the bins. If you've seen any of Laguna's features about it, there is an arm here that you can lift and just pull out the dust bin. And you'll notice here, actually, just for 90 days of use, I've already got quite a good amount of dust here. This is from a couple runs with the planer, 2 runs with the jointer, and a heck of a lot of sanding that I've done. And but you'll see that there's a separator bin here, which makes it non clumping against the sides. This just pulls out, and then you can take the bag and dump it. But I thought that this was really smart on Laguna's part in regards to how dust goes in and out. Now, it fits right into the 2 little notches right here, and you can lift it up, and it locks right into place, which I find is really, really useful. Creates a tight seal up here. There is no air whatsoever leaking out, and when I go back to the separator bag for the fine dust, you'll notice that there is a very, very small amount. I would say at least 90% of the dust is collected into this bin here, with just the very, very fine dust in the other bag. There are options from Laguna to make a electronic motor here to clean the filter. For right now, I just have the handle here, and it works just fine. Again, there is like hardly any dust down here. We're going to go over one of the only problems I had with the dust collector and how it was resolved. So in the switch box here, it turned out that there was a defective switchboard out of the box. When I assembled it and plugged everything in and I hit the power button, I got nothing. What I could hear from the box was a bunch of chirping. It was literally like a bird chirping. And anyway, when I called Laguna customer service for that, they were very quick to resolve the issue. The problem here in this case was the was the switchboard itself. They had a lot of them that were manufactured from some site that was defective, and it wasn't turning out the right voltage. There is a quick fix that's available to rewire parts of these to get the buttons running if you need to use it right away. But Laguna was very quick about the help, and they were able to overnight a board to me. It took basically, with the shipping and the processing of it, it was 2 days, but it was a really quick fix, and it turned out to be the issue, and I have since been running it with no problems at all. So that's a brief summary of the review of the dust collector. Again, I'm very impressed with the product that Laguna has. I think their dust collection systems are quite a step above anything else I've ever had. They're definitely a step above other competitors in how they handle the dust collection, their overall suction, the bin, and how it empties out is just industry leading. Couple things again, just to remind you. Go through the instruction manual, and there are useful bits in there, such as how to program the remote to learn into the switch box. There are other aspects of using which screws for what task that the videos don't cover. And also, you know, if you can find one out there, either online, I got mine off eBay, but get yourself one of these CFM meters, or they call them, I believe, anemometers, and they measure the airflow, and have one of these handy to where you can actually test what your total output is. But other than that, great product. Get one. And for our next videos, I think we're going to start some builds. I've had a lot of people excited about what we're going to build after seeing some of the pictures of the things that I do. We've got a couple lamps that we're working on. We've got a wine cart, and another end table that we're working on. And we just might build that first chair. That's the only thing I haven't built yet. So take a look at the other videos, like and subscribe, and thanks very much for watching.